Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video. This is yet another knife from Thunderbird Gear. We've had a few of them lately, and I was pretty stoked to check this out. This is a McNees PM MAC 2. You can see the finishes here: rock finish, stonewashed blue. Pretty outstanding looking knife, I will say. By the way, just to show you, since this is more of an overview anyway, because this is not my knife, so I'm not gonna beat on it or anything. It does come with this nice little steel card, which is a nice touch, and a nice little reminder to be nice. The knife itself, you can see this is pretty small. This is the smaller version. There is a 3.5-inch bladed one that maybe I will be fortunate enough to get my hands on if Steve over at White Mountain Knives, if Steve over at Thunderbird Gear, I'm so used to saying White Mountain Knives, guys, I apologize for that. But if Steve over at Thunderbird Gear gets some of those in stock, that again is where this came from. And Steve asked me, hey, is there anything that I've got that you want to take a look at? And this was on my list, and he promptly sent a bunch of stuff over for me to take a look at, get to know it, and share it with you. I was curious about this because I've seen a few of them around. The design definitely connects with me, and you guys know me, I tend to be drawn to the heavier duty type of stuff. And while this is small, it definitely favors that utilitarian build style. And for those reasons, I was pretty interested. Now, give you a quick rundown on the size here. It is only 6 5/8 inches long, basically a 3-inch blade. It's a little under 3 inches, 3 5/8 closed. All right, so pretty small little package here. 3.25-inch grip area. So I can get 4 fingers on here, but this is not a knife I enjoy holding. It's pretty small for me, and I definitely feel like I'm kind of cramped on it. And the weight of this, even for its small size, is 3.3 ounces, which is not crazy heavy, of course, because it's pretty small, but it's not really as light as this knife could be if there was some milling or something going on like that. All right, the blade is a drop point with this nice swedge, really, really gorgeous finish here. Look at that finish. Very attractive, and they've done a great job on this blade. It's fairly thick stock, carries a good bit of strength out to the tip. Again, this blade is definitely ground to be on sort of the tougher, more utilitarian end of the spectrum. It is CTSX HP, which I absolutely love. Probably my favorite knife steel. I just find it does such a great job of balancing all the things we want from a steel. I know I've made the comment before in my videos that Peter Rizzenti weighed into a discussion of knife steel one time and just said, S90V is the steel. And I definitely don't disagree with him, but I tend to like CTSX HP even a little bit better because it's a little easier to sharpen and still holds an edge like crazy. All right. Not a whole lot to say. It's reasonably thin behind the edge. It doesn't slice like crazy, but it cuts very well for EDC tasks. And I'm going to assume, actually, let's just leave it at that. I was going to make a comment about the larger blade, but that'll be fine. will refrain since I haven't actually handled one. Moving down to the lockup and deployment, I have to make a comment about these thumb studs. These are probably the single greatest thumb studs that I have seen. They're grippy, they're comfortable. Everyone tries to do thumb studs, and often they're a little rough. These are so well done. Whatever finish they've put on these, it's just perfect. They're easy to access. They don't, your hand doesn't get tired from flicking them. You can still sort of do a slow roll with this if you want to deploy it that way. By the way, it is on bearings, and thinking of the lockup and deployment, notice that there's no lock bar insert here. So that's usually something we would see, and it's kind of something I would expect at a knife of this price point. I guess I'm open-minded, and if the maker has a purpose for not including the lock bar insert there, then hey, maybe that's his prerogative for sure. My thought is, yeah, at this price point, I want the extra longevity and not necessarily reliability, but lack of, you can expect that there probably won't be lock stick. Okay, there isn't lock stick on this either. It's perfect. By the way, the lock bar is very accessible. The action, overall in terms of ergonomics of the functionality here, it's very good. Like the thumb studs are comfortable, the lock bar is accessible. The action is very, very nice and smooth. It is, of course, on bearings, as we've mentioned before. And I don't know if this knife needs bearings. I could kind of lean toward washers for this one, but that's fine. I'm not going to, really complain about it. Otherwise, so overall, yeah, lockup and deployment, quite good. I'm very, very pleased with that. Moving finally on to the handle. Again, the handle is full titanium. We're dealing with a titanium frame lock here. And I want this to focus because I want you guys to see the finish is honestly beautiful. It is so, so nice. This is absolutely a gorgeous rock finish with this great blue anno. I don't know. The lighting here just isn't doing it justice because there's kind of some depth here that it's so, so impressive, guys. The clip is just a bent clip, nothing special there. I mean, it's fine, and I'm not going to complain about it, but it is what it is. But the finish on this is very good. We've got a lanyard hole here, standoff construction, as you can see, and the screws just go straight through. There's the bottom of the screw right there. Okay, Torx construction, as you can see. All right, ergonomics, it's pretty small, so my hand feels quite cramped on this. I guess, my son Joel, who's 9, would probably feel a little more comfortable using it, but there is a larger version, so, and you guys know me, that's obviously the one I would go for. There are a couple of things, though, that I have to say put me off, so I probably wouldn't go out and try to buy one of these just because at this price point, there's some other things that I would probably look at first. I do want to throw in a couple of comparisons, not a lot. This is a titanium frame lock, so and it's a higher end titanium frame lock, so I think a Sebenza is an appropriate comparison. Now, this obviously is a large. This would be more in keeping with a small Sebenza. Another option you may want to look at, that's sort of, small batch production, higher end piece, is the Arno Bernard iMamba. Again, much bigger. This would be more comparable to the 3.5-inch version, but I thought I'd throw it in there anyway. You may also, there are a bunch of things you could think of. There's a bunch of Kaisers that would be comparable and a bunch of budget stuff, some smaller zero tolerance knives that you might think about. All of which, would be legitimate comparisons. To the larger one, you might think about a Hinderer or some other knives along those lines. So I'm not gonna give you tons and tons of comparisons because you guys are mostly familiar. And this is a smaller knife, so I don't have as much that easily compares. Just to give you an idea, there's a Para 2, and you guys know the Para 2 I don't think of as a huge knife. So this is quite a bit smaller than that. So I'm apologizing. Just I don't have a lot of small knives in my collection. To wrap this up, this is what I feel like about this knife. The design is really, really appealing. I like the way this looks. I like the aesthetic. Oh, there's one thing that I meant to mention here when we were talking about the action. The stop pin is this very thin, small stop pin, and I don't like that either, especially on a knife that's meant to be kind of used and meant to be, has this sort of heavy-duty, rough aesthetic. The stop pin definitely defies that, as do the bearings. But anyway, it is what it is. Not a bad cutting tool for a small knife. My expectations are not super duper high, but this is pretty expensive. And so those little things that bother me would be, they get amplified as the price increases, right? So the more I pay, the more perfection I expect. And this is kind of missing a couple things that I like to see. Now, again, these are things that I like to see. I'm not saying every high-end knife has to have a lock bar insert and has to have a thick, heavy-duty stop pin. I would prefer it if they did, though. And for me, that means that this is going to be a pass. That said, if you want one, go over to Thunderbird Gear and check it out. If you don't want one, if you kind of follow my thinking on this and this is not as appealing to you as perhaps some other things, guess what? Steve's got a bunch of stuff over there, and I'm sure if you spend some time on the website, you'll find something you really like. A big thank you again to Thunderbird Gear for sending this along with a bunch of other stuff that I've been able to make videos about. So thanks a lot for doing that, Steve. I look forward to whatever other cool stuff I may be able to share with people that you'll be kind enough to send along. So this whole situation has worked out really, really well for me, and I hope it works out well for Steve and for all of you who are watching. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.